You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 311. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. Today, we're talking weddings. It's A Gardin Wedding with Rosey Lee. She is back. She was on last year where we met the women of the Gardin of Edin, and her new book, A Gardin Wedding, is out today. I am so excited I got to chat with her about not only the book, but also about Rosey herself. It is always a treat because Rosey is not only an author friend, she is a friend. So I'm looking forward to sharing our conversation with all of you. Hello, Rosey.
Hi, Michelle.
I'm so happy to see your face.
Me too.
And your beautiful flowers in the back again.
Oh,
I love that they're
you.
not gone since last year.
No, I resurrected them. We
Well,
just had
first off, happy pub day. Happy pub
Thank
day.
you.
It's today.
Thank you. Whoop, 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 whoop. The Gardins of Edin.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you take a moment to remind everyone who you are, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Rosey Lee. I am the author of The Gardins of Edin and A Gardin Wedding. So these are the first two books. Yes, out today. These are the first two books in my Gardins of Edin series.
I love it. The covers alone are just sheer beauty. They're works of art.
Thank you.
They make me happy. And the stories inside, how do I describe it? Because I felt like there's drama, and yet it is such a also kind of wholesome story because I know that they're biblical retellings that I told you last time. I was like, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't think it.
So I wouldn't call it a retelling. So the first book, The Gardins of Edin, picked up where the stories of the women in the Bible left off. So I got just totally creative because I just always wondered what happened after the stories in the Bible. And so I made it up. But it's not like fully based on the women of the Bible because I took two women from the Old Testament and put them in the same family as two women from the New Testament. And so that's how we get the Gardin family who live in Edin, Georgia. So, you saw lots of the women's personality traits, traits that were very obvious through the stories told in the Bible. You saw that a lot in The Gardins of Edin, the first book. But in A Gardin Wedding, we're really just picking up with the messy family drama. So it's not so much based on the women's, the biblical women's stories, or their personalities, though obviously the personalities carry through. But really at this point, we're just trying to see what Martha Gardin is up to. What has she gotten herself into and how does she get herself out of it?
And I kind of forgot what she'd gotten herself into. So I went, oh, I was surprised because it's hard when you read, so many books in between and there's time that passes. I remember the women and I'm like, oh, yes. Now I recall, oh boy, she has dug herself a hole, and will she get out, and how does she get out? And I really enjoyed it. I loved it.
Thank you. Well, I love that too, because I try to write this series in a way that if someone hasn't read the first book, they're not really missing a lot. Sure, the backstory can be really entertaining and informative, but if you opt to just start with book 2, you still get a really, really great experience. And my editor and I were careful to make sure that we gave people the information that they needed in order to enjoy the story if they hadn't read the first book.
Which is great as a refresher too, since I read both of them. Yeah, I loved it. And I love that we have to talk about Rosey Lee's your pen name, as we revealed in the last interview.
top secrets are out.
It is. And now I always have to remind myself of what I'm
To
like,
call
wait,
me
it's
Rosey Lee
Rosy. Yeah.
because we're friends in real life. Yeah,
Yeah. So nobody will know. Mum's the word.
right.
But I'm trying to think of where I was just going with that.
Pen name.
Pen name, yes. Oh, and what you do in real life. That's where I was
Yes.
going. What you do in real life. And I loved so much how you brought it into this book
Mhm.
because I truly felt like this was even more so than book one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, what Michelle means is that I like to say that my alter ego is a physician. Rosey Lee isn't recognized by any state medical licensure boards or medical schools. So that's why I say it that way. But all of my stories have health themes interwoven in them. And so I don't want to be too specific about what they are because I want people to kind of try to catch on and see if they can figure out what's going on. But I will say that there are themes around physical health as well as mental health, and also a nice plug for couples counseling.
Yes. I love that it brought in all of those aspects.
Yeah.
And another thing that you brought up that we have not talked about off
Okay.
of this. So, what I found in a lot of the novels that I'm reading right now is
Mhm.
that the authors bring in bookstores. Everything has something to do with the bookstore, whether
Mhm.
the character owns one or we go visit one, or there's always bookstores involved.
Mhm.
And you take us to the library instead. And I
Yes.
thought that was such a treat and so beautifully done because although we love our libraries and we need
Mhm.
to respect them and pay more attention to them and fund them, I felt
Right?
like they're not represented in books as much.
Yeah. Well, I love libraries. I love librarians. I just believe that they are key parts of our community that really are much of, I don't even want to say glue. They're like kind of the lifeblood of the community in so many ways. And that's because so many different things can happen at the library. And so I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'll say that my character, what I think I can say, my character, my main character Martha, because she's a physician, she does some work with the library. And that's something that I'm very familiar with because of the work that I do or that my alter ego does outside of writing. And so I wanted to share that because I want people to see the library as a source for health information, for reliable health information. In this time where there's so much misinformation and disinformation, people need to know where can they go for trusted information. And libraries are a great source. And they're a great place to find out all the things that you need to live.
I love that. The libraries offer so much more than I think we even know. And we go to the library. I was raised at the library. And yet, even there are times where Michael Threats, he's the big librarian,
Mhm. Mhm.
what he shares, he's like, did you know you can get your cooking supplies? And I'm like, what? You can do that? Your national park card passes. I
Mhm.
knew about that. But
Yeah.
there's so much more that
Yeah.
people just don't even realize that it's not just books, it's so much
Absolutely.
more.
And when I was a kid, like in elementary school, I used to love to borrow cookbooks and then try to convince my mom to let me make the different recipes. And so often you needed some specialty pan or specialty utensil. If my school library back then had, whatever kind of fluted cake pan, imagine the stuff I could have made, but mine didn't have that back then. So I'm like, we've got such fantastic resources now. I want people to take advantage of all these resources at the library.
Yes, I used to check out bridal magazines as a child.
Ooh,
So that ties in nicely to your book.
that is fun. It really does because Instagram thinks I'm getting married.
I
Yes.
bet it does.
Yes, it actually thought this with my first book because of, flowers everywhere because I love flowers. So yes, I wanted flowers on the covers of both my books and to be a big part of my marketing. And so, I was always looking at some fun video about, how to do some DIY flower thing or, find a fun wall decor for my interviews like now. Um, and so Instagram really just thought I was getting married. And so then when I started writing A Gardin Wedding, I mean, I really went into wedding overload because this was the closest I've actually come to planning an actual wedding. So this is pretty exciting. Like all my
That's
dreams.
very exciting.
through this
We
book.
need a bunch of brides lined up with your book.
I would love that.
Or there's got to be a bridal expo happening soon.
Probably.
We're
Everybody
in that time.
find your old wedding veils, pull out your dresses, meet me outside after this interview. We're going to get dressed up and take
I
some
love
photos.
it. What a fun photo shoot that would
That would
be.
be loads of fun. Yes.
Since we're talking about weddings and your book, can we talk about, because we won't give spoilers on how or what, but I want to talk about the dresses in your book.
Oh, yes.
Because you gave such beautiful detail that I literally stopped reading and started Googling the details, the designer, because I wanted to see, and I do this quite often with books. I'm like, wait, is this real? And I'll start Googling so I can see what it really looks like. Is my imagination correct? And the wedding dress.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
give everybody the backstory on that, because when
okay.
I told you that, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I see it. I Googled it. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was a child, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I was very, very serious about it. Only it's a long story. I was 16 when I graduated from high school, and my parents were like, "You're not going to New York to study." So I went to medical school. Long story. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
Doogie Howser.
right. And you know, I used to love that show.
Yeah.
And so I love fashion design. And so one thing I do is I kind of dress my characters in fashion brands that are owned by Black designers. And so it's just my little way of helping people to learn about really wonderful brands that make beautiful clothes. Some super high end and luxurious, and others more affordable, like things that I actually buy myself. Um, and so one of my favorite designers or fashion brands is Amsala. Hopefully I said it right. Amsala Abera, I think is how she said her name. And so she was an Ethiopian fashion designer who started the brand called Amsala or Amsali. I'm not sure exactly how they pronounce it. And so she revolutionized bridal design. Please forgive me if anyone from her company is listening and heard me mispronounce it. But unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. And I thought it would just be a lovely tribute, just my own little personal tribute for a bride. That's all I'll say, to wear the really what's considered like I think they call it her A101 dress, which is the first dress that she designed, which was very, very similar to her own wedding dress. And that's actually how she got into bridal fashion design. She got married, she couldn't find a dress that she really loved, and so she made it herself, and people loved her dress, and that's just kind of the beginning of her story. And she's one of, or her brand is one of just the biggest, most wonderful bridal brands in the world.
I love it. I love how you incorporated that, and that it stopped me in my tracks because of the way you wrote about it and the detail. And I just had to see if it was for real. It was
It,
beautiful.
yeah, I loved it. I wanted to do bridal and evening gown design. So for me, she was the queen of the universe. And so this was just a really good way to honor her. I really try to mention different brands, particularly younger designers that people may not have heard of. But because she passed away, I decided I had to use her for that particular dress. But
I
there are
love it.
other really wonderful designers in the or brands in my books too.
How are you doing it all, being a physician and writing your second book so quickly after the first book? And I know that number 3 is coming too.
Yes, number 3 is coming. So that's a great question. Lots of planning and scheduling and late nights. I don't have any more hours in the day or secrets that other people don't know. I'm just trying to work more on work-life balance, but I end up really, I think, writing in spurts. That's really the way I like to think about it. I think about my books for a really long time. Like I have an idea of what's going to happen. And so I usually start off with just a brief outline. I dare even call it an outline, but anywhere from one sentence to a paragraph about what happens in each scene. And so if I can do that then I feel comfortable writing. But it takes me a long time to get to that point. So I'll think about things for a while and I'll be driving down the street and I'll get an idea. And when I stop, I'll either send myself an email or like dictate a note. I think only doctors say dictate notes, but everyone else just says like leave a voice memo or something. I don't know. But I'll dictate a little note to myself in my phone, and then build it into my outline later. And then when it comes kind of my writing season, then I just go for it.
What's been different between writing book 1 and book 2?
Time was the biggest piece. I think, when you're a debut author, you were writing, but there's usually no real hard firm deadline. Like you may have your own goals for when you'd like to have the book done so you can edit it, tighten it up, query agents, etc. But there's no contract that says when you've got to do that. And so it's very different when you're on your second book, because really I had this plan that while I was querying agents and while my book was on submission, I'd be working on my second book. I should say while my first book was, while I queried agents and went on submission with the first book, my plan was to write the second book. But life happened. We had a number of things happen in my family that just required my attention, and it was really hard to find the time to write. And so I didn't, and I think that's okay. And so now I just have to plan and make it happen. So
I love that. Have you felt any pressure? I've heard from other authors that with the sophomore book, which is something I've never, I'm like, oh, a sophomore book. Now we're back in high school, that there's more pressure because of whatever's happened with the first book. Do you feel that? Or are you like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen?
So I felt it with the writing piece, not so much in terms of the performance piece, but I mean, hey, the book just came out today, right? So I'm not feeling that pressure quite yet. But I wasn't sure. I think everyone says that, right? Like, I don't know if I can do it again. And you're like, but you did it before, so you can do it. But I really wasn't sure because I felt like I really had this beautiful magical formula that I also kind of cheated a bit because I didn't make up these women totally on my own. I borrowed them from the Bible. And so I had their personalities to guide me. And also it was different with the first book. The main character is in the Gardins of Edin is the family. So we're really telling the story of the family through 4 different women. And because each scene is told from the point of view of one of the women. And so I didn't have that to fall back on for the second book because the second book, Martha is the main character. And so it's just Martha all day long with her fun, but troublemaking and annoying self. And so that was also hard. I think in some ways it definitely was harder to write a multi POV book first. But there's also a bit of protection there. You can kind of hide a little bit. And so having to have one character carry it the whole time and for everything to be seamless, that was harder for me. And I didn't want my readers to feel like, she should have just stopped with that first book. Like, no. And so I felt like it took me a few chapters to really get in the groove where I could see it. So usually I let my sister read it as I go along. Well, I say usually. There's nothing usual about this because this was the second time I did it, and I didn't do it that way the first time. But that's what I did for this book. And I said to her, okay, like, here's a chapter. What do you think? Like, is this like in line with what like expectations are for Rosie? And she's like, yes. I'm like, because because that's the thing, I say for Rosie, but I mean, like, I want people to know that when you get a Rosey Lee book, you're going to get messy family and friendship drama. You're going to get a heartwarming ending. There'll probably be some tears along the way, or some anger, or some what, or, a twist that you didn't see coming. And I wanted that because that's what people experienced in the first book. And so I felt like if I couldn't deliver that, then, what am I doing? Like, this career is over. And so I just kind of checked in with my sister along the way and felt like, okay, all right, I got my groove. And then once I got it, then I just kept on with it.
It's kind of like a twist between Hallmark and Bravo. Because you're not fully like all buttoned up Hallmark, but you're not like throwing tables and dancing on tabletops like Bravo. It's
Uh-huh.
that nice in between mesh.
That's a good way to put it. That's a I think that's a fantastic compliment. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, I love both. So
Right.
the fact that you can marry them together in a book is exactly what I love.
Who says it's interesting that like you're the second time in less than 24 hours that I've heard someone describe my book as wholesome. And I'm like, really? Like I write wholesome books? Because I guess I see that, but I'm like, Martha is the hottest of messes. Like she tried to I don't want to spoil it for anyone who didn't read the first book, but she's a mess.
She
But
is, but it's when I say wholesome, I'm thinking like it's clean
uh
reading.
mhm,
Like I could give this to my kids to read and not be concerned about it
yeah,
in any way, whether we're talking about language or
mhm,
scenes.
that's true.
There's nothing that it's like when you were younger and someone would say, "Well, would you say that to your principal?"
Yeah,
Would you say whatever it is that you're going
yeah,
to say in front of
yeah,
someone of authority?
yeah,
I take it of the opposite. Could I allow my child to
yeah,
stumble upon this and open it and read it from wherever, or do I have to go,
yeah.
no, you can't? It's like the LA Times Festival of Books spicy panel that I sat in on that I thought was romance, and it was spicy
Nice.
romance where
Yeah.
no, my daughter could not sit in it. That was not good, clean, wholesome fun. Your books are wholesome in that way, and they're feel good along with some messy drama that
Mhm,
keeps it entertaining and fun.
mhm.
That's what I mean by it.
I get that. And I receive that too. And I mean, I shouldn't play like I'm totally clueless, like I don't know what I write, right? Like, I have spent time thinking about like what I want my books to be about. But it's just still a little weird hearing someone say that. That's all. So
But
thank you
I
for
think it's a great reflection of you too,
no.
because as your friend, not
Mhm.
not as a host, as a friend, that's how I look at you too. Like
No.
I know that you, like, again, you could talk to my children and I'd be okay with it versus,
Uh-huh.
if I turn on the TV and the president's on, I'd be like, everybody cover your ears. We don't know what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
There's a difference, and you're good, you're fun, you're entertaining, you're all of these things that your books truly represent. Like that is you, you are them, they are you, all of that.
Yeah. I really appreciate that because I think one of the things I've struggled with a lot is people kind of probably thinking that wholesomeness, but not really understanding like what I really write. It's not your kind of usual wholesome book, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think like I mentioned this in the first interview, I remember because there was that biblical like reference
Mhm.
somehow and stuff, and I was like, "Really?" Because I didn't get that, and it's not the only book that has had something to do with, a retelling or just bringing in a
Mhm.
character from the Bible that I go, "You don't have to read the Bible to understand the book." Like it's
Yeah.
totally completely separate.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so great your book. I love it because you can get the underlyings of the Bible if you're looking for that or looking,
Yeah.
into it. But you can also just read it as a really good, fun read.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you're checking all the boxes.
Thank you. Can I
And
get
I
that?
loved, go
No.
ahead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I loved how you brought everybody in the family because we do still get to hear from all of them. You
Yes.
get little snippets of updates.
Mhm.
Um, I want to know more about Ruth because I feel like to me, Ruth is you. When I
Really
picture Ruth in my head, I picture you. You
interesting.
are Ruth to me. Yes.
Interesting. Huh. That is very interesting. Well, see, I see myself in all of the characters. So it's really interesting. Some people think I'm Martha, which is really funny to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Am
I see Ruth.
but Ruth,
Yeah.
okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had some people say, "Oh my gosh, I've heard you say something like this," but I don't know if I get Ruth as much. So this is I like it.
Yeah. I see you as that figure. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Minus the marriages and
Right.
but
I get married
the
to husband.
personality matches.
Yeah, the person. Okay.
Yeah.
I just
I just
I
see
just
you
got
I see you sitting there like,
just secretly being the one who like is really the one holding everything together.
Yes,
That's
that's true. That's how I feel. Yeah, that is you. You are
that's
Ruth.
interesting. That's so interesting. I'm gonna have to like talk to my therapist about this and like unpack this. I don't
Let me
know.
know if you want me to join in on it.
Yes. No, that's funny. That's really interesting. Yeah. But
Are
yeah,
you
but
worth? Yeah.
oh no, it's okay. I was just
Sorry.
gonna say
No, go ahead.
I appreciate that you brought that part up because it was really important to me for everyone to get to check in with the other garden family members and see what they're doing. And they certainly let us know. And I think they'll let us know what happens next.
I'm still waiting to be able to go visit their house because I want to go live in it. I
Okay.
want to go sit at the pond lake.
Ah,
Yes, build me the houses, please.
so what I can do is if anyone's curious, there is a map of the Garden Family Estate on my website, which is roseyleebooks.com, ROSEYLEE books.com. So do check it out. But I visited a place that when I went there, I just thought, oh my gosh, this looks like their estate. But the houses were not the same.
Oh.
So I could take you to that place, but we'll have to make up our own houses and pretend.
Well, then let's just build our own commune.
I'm down
We'll
with
just,
that.
yeah, that would be fun. I like it. I like where they live. I like the decor. I like it all.
And we must have a
And of
list.
course, and golf carts, because
Yeah,
that's something that is a theme for me on my end.
right.
Listeners will be like, what? Huh?
That's
Golf
hilarious.
carts?
Right. Right.
Inside joke. Sorry, friends. You
Right.
have to get to know me better to understand that.
I was really obsessed with golf carts for a while though. So
You need to come to San
I'm ready to come
Jose.
visit you. Yes, exactly. I am ready. In fact, I went on vacation. I went to Florida just for like a weekend. And I was like, golf carts. There were golf carts like parked out in front of this hotel. And I was like, who are these people? Are the gardens here? Right. That's
We
fun.
went to San Diego. We went to Coronado Island for a beach day,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they all have golf carts too. And I
Mhm.
started snapping pictures. I was like, oh yeah, it's like being
Like, why
back
am
at
I taking a
home.
picture of a golf cart? Right.
Yeah,
I did that. And I said the same thing. Like, who's gonna appreciate this photo of a golf cart? It's
I
so
certainly will.
but I didn't
So
know
if
you meant that, so I couldn't
well,
I
now if
couldn't send
anybody has pictures of golf carts, send them
them
to me, and they'll
out.
be in a future book.
Yeah.
Is book number 3 in the works?
So it is. I don't have a contract yet. So I need everyone to buy this book by A Gardin Wedding so I can get a contract for book 3 and maybe book 4. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
I'm thinking I want to stop at 4, which is interesting because my original I guess pitch when I went on well really when I pitched agents as well as when we went on submission we really tried to sell it as a 3-book series. And so I think the publishing company's probably interested in book 3. We'll see. I don't really know. But I am working on it. And at
good.
first I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I was like, I don't know if I have enough questions about this other character to come up with the full story. Maybe it should be a novella, or maybe I shouldn't do it at all. I don't know. But as I wrote A Gardin Wedding, it just came together. And
Mm-hmm.
I am so excited about book 3.
I
So
could see
excited.
book 3 and book 4. And we haven't even talked about book 3. And so I know what I can tell you what I want to happen or who I
Okay.
want to hear from. Book
Okay.
3, we need to hear from Mary. And
Okay.
there's going to be some backstory. We got to have some more backstory, I feel like.
Okay.
And then she has to find love too. And
Okay.
I'm not going to share more of that. I'll do that offline, so don't do spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
And then for book 4, I'd like us to revisit Ruth,
Mm.
and I want to give her a happy ending.
Hmm.
Yes, and maybe MJ can come in more with that too, or something of that aspect.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's so interesting hearing the way people think about this because everyone has their thoughts
Right.
about who they want to hear from and why. And it's so
Yeah, and I'm sure authors love that.
okay, so let me tell you, I actually do because when I wrote A Gardin Wedding, believe it or not, I thought a lot about the feedback that I got from podcast hosts. Like, there was this one podcast host who detests Martha. And she's like, there's nothing you're going to do, nothing you can do to make me like her. It's just not going to happen. So it became like this little running joke between us the entire interview. And I thought of her as I wrote, and I thought, and she said, I'm going to need tears. Like, I need tears. And it's so funny. I don't read reviews most of the time, but I do read them before the book comes out just to kind of get a sense of what people are thinking, like the early NetGalley and Goodreads reviews. And someone said, Martha cries so much. And I'm like, well, I was told they needed tears. And I actually think the tears were appropriate. It's not like I'm like taking orders like, I'm at a fast food restaurant. Like, what do you want in this book? But no, I think Martha was just so horrible. She just was such I shouldn't say horrible. She was a complicated person. And she had a lot of brokenness and hurt inside that caused her to cause trouble among her loved ones. And so typically people who come across that way need to cry in order to work through it.
So human, so wholesome. Look at you.
So Martha had to cry. And so it really helped me because, I have my view of these characters and how I experience them. But I actually do really care about how other people experience them and what other people feel like they need to feel like they've seen this character happy. So it's always really interesting to me when people say, I want Ruth to get a happy ending. And I'm like, Ruth is happy. What do you mean?
Because she needs, I know, but I want her to have more. Like, she's lost her husbands. Like, that's sad. I want her to have more.
I understand. Okay. Oh, I don't know, Michelle. I don't know.
Well, I'll let you sit on it. Yeah, just sit on it, simmer,
Okay.
That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, I should have never told you that. These other people swayed me. Now I'm going to hear about
No, you know what? The interview that went live today as we were recording this was Jessie Rosen.
Okay.
She said that in her second book, she went back to messages, including one of mine, where I was sharing as I was reading what I loved about the book. And she said she took all of readers' feedback of the positives and reminded herself to incorporate more of that type of content.
That's beautiful.
In the second book.
I love that.
But she doesn't mention me in her acknowledgments like you do. Oh. Yeah, spoiler, everybody. I'm in this book.
Yes, Michelle is, because you helped me a lot.
Which was the best surprise ever, because I love acknowledgments. No. I read all acknowledgments, but I don't read them until the very end. I'm like, that's where I'm like, oh, where'd this author, get inspiration or get support from? I love reading them. And sometimes they're just like, oh, I want to thank my agent and my editor and yawn. Nothing that you're like, oh, that was so insightful. And then you're reading along and poof, there's your name.
Oh, well, yeah, I appreciate you. Because it takes a lot. I mean, everyone says this, right? It takes like such a group to put a book together, and the acknowledgments helps you to see that. But for me, when I think about all the ups and downs I had working through kind of promoting my first book while I'm writing my second book and figuring things out. And, I really want to thank the people who I bounced ideas off of and who talked me down, and who, when I was getting to be a little bit too much like Martha, made me just sit down and take a moment. And so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. It means even more to me. You have no idea. My kids are like, oh my gosh, you're in a book.
That's so funny. You also kind of wrote a book. So, there's that.
I know, but it's different.
But what is special is we met on this podcast. So yes. This is like kind of like our anniversary.
I love that. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Michelle.
Happy Pub Day. I know. We're getting married.
We're not.
We're not. No, I am married.
And you're kind of straight, I think. And I am.
Yeah. Very. Yeah. But
yeah,
everybody else gets it.
Yeah.
happy pub day. And where can everybody find you, buy the book, and give you all of their feedback for book
Yes,
3?
I do want your feedback. I am active on social media, more on Instagram, but also on Facebook. But I am at Rosey Lee Books. Again, that's RoseyLeeBooks, across social media, and at RoseyLeeBooks.com. And my book is available wherever books are sold.
Congratulations, and thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all of your support and encouragement.
Oh. Okay, friends, my 2 pieces of advice for all of you is to A, go out and purchase A Gardin Wedding, but also B, to let the authors of the books you love know that you love them. Send them a little message, an email, a DM. Let them know the big takeaways of their books, because you never know if it's going to help them in their next book. And it's also just really nice to get that feedback and appreciation when you're in the midst of launching a book, writing another book. It's some great encouragement. So if you're ready for wedding season, because it is wedding season, you need to go pick up A Gardin Wedding and let Rosey know that you've got your veil and you are ready to go on this next adventure with all of these fun women.